and we got calories up to 2,700 calories. Okay, now keep in mind, this is a female. Okay, this is a woman in this, and like I want to emphasize that because many females are very nervous to eat more food. And we got her up to 2,700 calories where she was maintaining weight at 171 to 172 pounds. In today's video, I'm going to take you guys through a client case study of someone who was diagnosed with Hashimoto's and had potential gut dysbiosis. You'll see in the photos in the video here of the before and after. And I'll give you a rundown in just like a very, simplistic way of how I went about this and in order for her to achieve these results and get the feedback that we had gotten. So this individual here, doctors based off of blood work diagnosed with like TPO readings and TSH and such that she potentially has Hashimoto's. Now, Hashimoto's is an autoimmune disease of the thyroid. It's quite common actually. And so in this instance, I think she caught it early enough that we were able to make drastic changes and potentially negate that actual autoimmune disease. Because like chronic autoimmune diseases, they claim that there's no cure for them. It's just manageability, which makes sense. But you can do a great job managing them. But in this instance, I think she was able to reverse it, catching it soon enough and doing the right things. And then as for the gut dysbiosis, that's dealing with things like bloating and indigestion and whatnot. So that had to be addressed as well. So initially she came to me, her starting weight was 189 pounds. Her waking heart rate was 80 to 90 beats per minute, which is a big indicator of things like stress levels, lack of recovery, metabolic dysfunction. That's sitting rather high. She was only eating 2 to 3 meals per day. Her sleep was up and down. She is a shift worker who alternates between days and nights. So her sleep was up and down and was struggling with her night shift. Her mood was very low. She used to be upbeat and wanting to do things, liked conversing with people. At this point, she was like not really in the mood for going anywhere, doing anything, and feeling a bit of anxiety. She was on Thyroid medication. A little bit prior to her and I working together, she was excessively working out, which is usually a big culprit of something like an autoimmune disease or like which can lead to one because of the excessive levels of cortisol and stuff. So she, just before us though, she had understood that she needed to work out less. And so she had brought that down to a little less than what she was doing. So these were her starting symptoms. And when I take this into account, right, there's a lot that goes into creating the nutrition plan, but where we're really watching is things like the fact that she's a shift worker, the potential high immune system response, obviously the guts, maybe potential overgrowth, or maybe just poor pancreatic, so poor digestive function. So we're going to take that all into account. We definitely want to increase how many times she's eating and of course increase the meals and then work on her stress. Yes, weight loss is something that is a goal or was a goal of hers and something that would definitely benefit, to address all of this. But in the beginning, it was not our main focus. So now getting into the construction of the program, we started her off at 1,800 calories with low volume training, only 3 times per week with no cardio at all. We actually kept cardio for quite a while. She had been doing lots of cardiovascular activity, so I wasn't too concerned with her cardiovascular conditioning. This was just like the low volume training was lower reps, so more like heavier weights, but less on the inflammatory scale and less on the metabolic scale. And as mentioned, only 3 times per week. And with doing so her first week, she dropped 9 pounds. Now, I'm not like emphasizing the 9-pound weight loss. Essentially what that's telling me is that her body was hungry, right? It was the adrenals needed nourishing, the liver needed fuel. There's a lot going on here. So getting such a drastic drop in the first week is just showing how much stress she was under and what her body was holding on to. So obviously this is not going to be 9 pounds of fat. This is going to be a lot of reduction in, subcutaneous water created by stress, inflammation, possibly even like to do with GI health and everything. So that's where that's coming from. So we had a good initial response. So then we worked our way up to almost 2,000 calories, about 1950. And in doing so, we switched the training phase and went up to 4 times per week. So this is the point where I put her in a very nutrient partitioning training phase because I felt her body was ready after decreasing inflammation. Like a lot of symptoms were subsiding at this point. So it was time to move forward with more training in the hopes of creating a more nutrient partitioning response and really start to fill up glycogen stores and enable her to eat more food for her other physiological processes. So we got the calories up to over 2,000 and her weight was continuing to drop and ended up dropping to 172 pounds. This is all while increasing calories. So once again, I'm not trying to be like, oh, look at all the weight she's losing. I'm just implying that the fact that weight's moving in this direction is showing that she's on the right track, but also she has more room for food. Because when you come from the excessive exercise and things like Hashimoto's, because that abundance of cortisol will affect the thyroid, so more food just means building more hormones, improving thyroid function, and just everything else you can think of in the body. So this 172 pound weight maintenance is enabling us to increase more food. So we started periodizing more of her training, started training on the liver and then doing some deloads, going back to where she kind of started with the low volume training and the lower reps and such. And we got calories up to 2,700 calories. Okay. Now keep in mind, this is a female. Okay. This is a woman in this. And I want to emphasize that because many females are very nervous to eat more food. And we got her up to 2,700 calories where she was maintaining weight at 171 to 172 pounds. We were getting feedback. Sleep is great. Energy is great. The digestive issues have subsided, taking care of the gut dysbiosis. And she was able to get her waking heart rate average around 60 beats per minute. Sometimes we'd even see it in the 50s. So we're getting a great response all while doing this, while increasing food and periodizing her training, okay? At this point, the thyroid markers have significantly improved. You'll see in the video here, the readings from her TSH. There was no symptoms of thyroid issue, no symptoms of Hashimoto's at this point. If I remember correctly, she might correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember the markers like TPO and such also came back optimal, kind of indicating yeah, Hashimoto's is not something that she needs to worry about at this point. I'm not saying that it's gone or even that that it's gone or maybe she even had it, but at this point, thyroid markers are good and this is what we're going to go off of, okay? Because when you have an autoimmune disease, everything can be doing really, really well. And then all of a sudden you just get hit with this massive amount of stress and then that causes the immune system to flare up and then that's when the autoimmune disease can really be prevalent again. So, but all these markers were looking awesome at this point in time. So we went to go into a fat loss phase. We fed her up, got her calories up nice and high, way above her maintenance level for her activity level, way above her basal metabolic rate. And she held that for a while, maintaining that weight. So she was ready for fat loss. Okay. So we went into a fat loss phase. We got a less than optimal response. There could be several factors as to why this occurred. Basing off of symptoms, we addressed a few things. We looked a little more into gut health. We looked a little more into liver health. Okay. So we pulled her out of that. But because she had the history of a Hashimoto's, meaning a higher immune response, we went into an autophagy protocol. So for those that don't know, autophagy is the process of clearing things out. It's programmed cell death. So it's a really good way to clear out toxins, inflammagens, improve macrophage count, which goes in and clears out that inflammation. So it's just an overall great protocol for reducing inflammation. I'm not really going to get into this protocol because this is one you definitely want special supervision with. You got to be really careful of hormone reduction, thyroid, and all that kind of stuff. But her body was in a really good place at this point. Even though she was getting a less than optimal response to fat loss, she was at a great point to do this autophagy protocol. So we got into this and right away, all her symptoms started improving. Sleep started improving great. Weight was still maintaining. Energy was still there. You could see in her body composition photos, you could see the water and the inflammation starting to decrease. And so we got her into another great place, brought calories up again, pulled out of the autophagy, brought the calories up, and then we went back into fat loss where she started getting a much better response. We could see in the body composition that she was responding. Weight was maintaining relatively well. I believe she got down to about 170. And then, summer hit, and that was her vacationing time. But up until that point, everything was going great. I believe at the end there, before, she started in her summer activities, we finished off with some carb cycling, and she was responding well to all of that. So majority of what we did for the duration that we had worked together was spending time feeding up, getting her up to a high amount of calories to establish a very good metabolism while making sure gut health was on point, while making sure thyroid health was there. And liver was a big one too that we focused on, making sure she was, detoxifying toxins, metals, and inflammagens. Got her really ready, went in, made an attempt, okay? And this is what most people will do. They'll go into a fat loss phase. So we dropped, I think it was like 400 something calories to start the fat loss phase. And what people will do is they'll go in and they'll try to lose fat like that. And they'll think, okay, maybe I'm still eating too much. So they'll reduce more calories and increase their training. I'm not saying that's not the answer. Most of the time it's not. I'm not saying it won't work. Sometimes it will. But in this case, I knew that wasn't the answer. I knew something else was going on, and this was still a little bit of inflammation, because the reality is when you are eating a standard nutritional protocol or plan and you're having carbohydrates, you can have less stimulation of that release or that clearance, of inflammation. And then so you hold on to that, and you can still have really good markers, but there's this underlying level of inflammation that's occurring. And so then when you go and you start applying more stress to the body via caloric deficit, that can really heighten that immune response. And then that immune response is going to kind of slow down the rate of fat burning is what's going to happen. And also too, what you have to take into some considerations is if someone has a heightened immune response, they might need more glucose because the immune system is reacting to it. And it needs that energy to do its job. And if you don't supply that energy for the immune system to clear out the inflammation, then it's just going to create more stress for the body, because your body then needs to do a more stressful process to get that energy available for the immune system, right? And so that's some of the reasons why people can plateau or not get the response that they're looking for going into a fat loss phase. So I made sure that, okay, look, we're not going to, push more for fat loss. Although autophagy protocol does require a reduction in calories, we pulled training. No cardio, no training. So her expenditure went way down as well. And then we just monitored accordingly, made sure to feed her back up a little bit using proper training protocol and an increase in calories, which then prepared her again to go into fat loss, to which we did receive a better response, and everything stayed great. The thyroid markers stayed great, the symptoms stayed great, sleep, digestion, all that kind of stuff, right? But as you all know, summer comes around and we all want to go camping and have fun and everything. So she was in a great place for that, though. She really took care of her health, and to my knowledge now, she's still in a very healthy state. So she did very, very well. I'm very proud of her. Put the work in, put the time in for eating more food, which can be very difficult for some, especially females. So very, very happy that she had done all that. And as you can see here, like I said, you look at the before and after photos, and you look at the thyroid markers, and that is what we are going for. A big reduction in inflammation, that correction of the gut dysbiosis, and those thyroid markers. Just super happy about that. So yeah, that's just one of the examples of what I work with here, and very vague, but a little bit of what I do to help these people achieve these results. So if you like that video, hit the like and subscribe button, and make sure to check out my Instagram at that.coach.curtis.